Down.
Welcome, boys and girls, to the Under the Dome, home of the Who Dat Nation. This is episode 3, and we're finally talking real football because training camp is open. We finally have some new players to talk about, some exciting young rookies, and some exciting undrafted free agents. And with me tonight is my partner in crime here, Mr. Sean Williams. Go ahead, Sean.
How you doing tonight, Alan?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Well, the show must go on. We're gonna do a good job tonight. I'm so excited for tonight's episode because tonight we're welcoming in one of the people that I love the most when it comes to New Orleans Saints football, and that is D. Scott Alexander. And he's the host of Primetime Sports in New Orleans and surrounding areas. Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander, that's Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. and Thursday nights. And he also is the owner, editor of SaintsInsider.com, a very good site I highly recommend to any Saints fan to follow. And he's also, for you basketball supporters out there, he does Pelican right well. With that, I want to welcome in Scott Alexander. Thanks for joining us tonight, Scott.
Well, I'm honored, guys, to be here. Alan and obviously Sean for the first time you've had a guest. You've done a great job with your first 2 shows, and I'm up here at Saints training camp, so I'm ready to talk some football. You guys ready?
Absolutely.
All right.
Let's get into Scott. If you had to write a narrative for the first 5 practices that they've had so far, what would be the main thing to be talking about?
Team chemistry, without a doubt. I mean, this is my 5th year back in New Orleans after being away for a long, long time, and my 5th training camp that I'm able to see up close as part of the media. And I got to tell you, the vibe I get is so much different, and it's weird. I mean, it's one thing to say the vibe on the field. That's hard to tell. People can say, okay, practice is practice. It's just the vibe you get. We get 8 to 10 players every single day in a tent that we all talk to under the tent and talk to them about what's going on in practice, what they expect next season. And just the way they talk about each other is the biggest difference to me, and how they plan on utilizing. A lot of guys are playing a bunch of positions and trying to get the best 11. You've seen it a lot. You probably saw yesterday Kelemete played a lot of tackle. Him and Andres Pete have been switching back and forth. All the defensive linemen have been playing all across the board. The linebackers, Greg Robertson and Stupar, much better than advertised. Those guys are playing along the all 3 linebacker spots, Mike, Sam, and Will, just to say, hey, if there's an injury, they can fill somebody in. And they're doing the same thing in the secondary with Von Bell. The guy's playing everywhere. Eric Harris, that young guy, he's playing everywhere. So it's just a bunch of guys that really seem to like each other. I'm not saying they haven't before, but much more so than I've been since 2012.
Well, Scott, I have to say, this is probably the most optimistic camp I've seen since at least 2013, where they were talking about this is the most talented team the Saints have ever put together on the field. This is the most exciting team they've ever seen put together on the field. This year, it seems like there's an emphasis on these guys are really hard workers. These guys look like they really want to win. That's the feeling that you're getting over there?
Undoubtedly, Alan. I'm telling you, it's that kind of vibe you're getting. Guys that will go through walls. Guys that don't take plays off. I mean, you always saw, it's just natural. You're going to take a play off if you get tired, I guess. Yeah. You don't see that. The coach is like, get you out of there before you half butt it. You know what I'm talking about? Don't go out there if you're not going to go out. And they're running through walls right now. And that's the biggest key. You hit on it. That's the biggest key I did not see consistently. Now, granted, I'm only a week in. I'll be here for a week more. I'll let you know. I'll let y'all know via Twitter or whatever else if that continues. But so far, so good. The attitude has been spectacular among everybody I've talked to.
The other thing I've seen.
We're talking with D. Scott Alexander.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry about that, Sean.
We're talking with D.
No,
Scott
that's
Alexander
okay.
From SaintsInsider.com, who is actually at White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, at New Orleans Saints training camp. Scott, the biggest concern among many Saints fans going into training camp this year, excuse me, has been offensive guard. What have you seen in terms of what they're going to do about that?
Well, let's get in a three-way discussion here. Let's all talk about this because obviously that's the biggest issue on offense. Let's be honest. The offensive guard position, you've got to keep protecting your star player. And Drew Brees, I mean, I wouldn't have said that he was going to be playing this well 2 years ago, and he's playing better than he was. So you have to protect him. Now, obviously, right now, if the season ended today, I don't think there's any doubt that Lolito is going to be at left guard or vice versa, and then you're going to have Andres Pete over there on the other side. So those two guys are in there. But I said this yesterday. Clemente opened my eyes the most. This dude looks a little bit faster, a little bit stronger. He was handling Sheldon Rankins like it was no problem yesterday. I know Rankins is a rookie. He's got a lot to learn, but I was a little impressed by that because Rankins was blowing some other guys off the line. So as far as the guard position, it's still a concern. I can't tell you right now if I feel great about it until I see a couple preseason games because that's a hard position to really judge because a lot of times where we're watching the practice, like yesterday, I mean not yesterday, Sunday was perfect because they played on our side of the field where the media is allowed, but a lot of times they play on the other side, so it's really hard to see the trenches. But right now I'm cautiously optimistic. What do you think, Alan?
Well, I think you're right. I think they want to put Pete at guard just to have their best five out on the field. But you got a lot of fans that are really interested, not so much in Clemente and Lolito. They want to hear about, the new guys. They want to hear about Turner. What does Turner look like? Jack Allen. What does he look like? Avery Young. What are these guys? I mean, do they look like they're just too green right now and maybe we have to wait a little bit longer? Let's see how it shakes out in preseason. Or does it look like any of those guys could have an impact and maybe be there starting, week one against the Oakland Raiders?
Well, as of what I've seen so far, not a chance.
Okay.
Jack Allen is a technician, but, man, he is getting tossed around a little bit by some big dudes, particularly Tyler Davison. That's a guy. But the thing is, I think Turner needs a lot more work with his footwork. I think he makes this team, at worst, a practice squad player. I think he's got the potential to be the starter. You got a lot of size there. But I've only seen 3 practices in pads, so it's really hard to tell what he's – and this is the first week for these guys. Sean, you know this.
Right.
The first week for the guys that are just brand new, they're just in la-la land trying to figure it all out. These defensive linemen are kind of experienced at this point other than Rankins, and they're getting shown – put it this way, the defense dominated, I thought, the first 2 days of pad practice. I thought the offense picked it up on Sunday. But – right now, it's hard to tell about these young offensive linemen. I just see them getting beat consistently on one-on-one drills.
I kind of feel that way, too.
Yeah, you two go ahead.
Sorry.
I'm going to let you two talk for a second. It's y'all's show. All right.
I think there's a lot more for young offensive linemen to learn in terms of protection, what you do here, what you do there, so on and so forth. And basically, your defensive lineman, you're going to get the quarterback or you're going to stop the ball. How much does that enter into what young guys are experiencing now as far as a learning curve?
Well, I was going to throw in this, too. Last year we saw with Andres Pete, after he did the banquet circuit, he came to camp a little, out of shape, had a hard time getting traction in the league, eventually got put in a couple times. Didn't look that good in the beginning, but as the season wore on, he started to get a little bit more in football shape, I think that's what you're going to see with these young guys like Turner. I think a season kind of on the bench in an NFL level conditioning and training program, you'll probably see a much bigger leap next year with Jack Allen, Turner, players like that than you will this year. I think this year it's going to be the three-way battle between Pete, Clemente, and Lolito. I think it's just going to have to be that way right now.
Let me say this about Pete. Boy, man, I mean, he is blowing me away. When they put him at left tackle yesterday, they kind of had the Clemente on Sunday. Sunday, let me think. No, it was yesterday. What am I talking about? Yesterday was the practice day. So, yeah, Sunday they had Clemente at left tackle. Yesterday they had Pete. Pete at left tackle because Teron Armstead's out, right?
Yeah.
Dude,
right.
This guy looked great. I'm telling you, he's not showing any of that rookie, inexperience that he had that year. And that's his natural position. Now, no way he's going to ever beat out Armstead, but I'm going to say this. That tackle spot, once he takes over from Pete, is going to be one of the best in the NFL. I'm telling you, that's how much I think of Pete right now after watching a full week of him and how he's doing business this year compared to last.
Do you think he supplants Strief before the season's over?
That's a great question, actually. It just depends on how the other guards are playing. You know, right now, I think they just plan on giving Allen, I think they plan on giving Strief protection over there by putting the tight end on his side most of the time, maybe throwing the fullback in. But Pete right now, I mean, Strief right now can still get the job done. He's not getting it done against the real fast, athletic DNs, and I know there's a lot of them, but they're going to help him out. They know they can isolate Armstead all day long. And I think right now, at the end of the season, if you put my money on it, I think you might be right. I think Pete might be filling in. Injuries are going to tell the tale. There's no way a full season's going on with everybody being healthy on the offensive line. But if they were, I think the odds-on favorite, you might be right. It just depends on if Clemente can continue to play like I've seen him play the first few days of training camp. If that's the case, then I might feel more comfortable. But you know Sean Payton. He wants the veteran in there. He doesn't want to have to rely on Lolito,
Absolutely.
Pete, and obviously Clemente. I mean, he'd rather have the experienced veteran and take his chances there.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. How about the defensive line? You touched on a little bit with Tyler Davidson having a great camp. Nick Fairley got knocked out early with a mysterious injury. Could be a cramp. Not quite sure what's going on with him. But how about the rest of the defensive line? I've read that John Jenkins seems to be having an okay camp to a very good camp. Davidson seems to be stepping up. What do you see out of the defensive line so far?
Well, that's the group I get to watch the closest. I mean, sometimes the offensive line, they let us see, but the defensive line, man, they've come right to the end zone where we're allowed to be, and so we are close enough to touch them. So those guys, I feel like, at least for now, I have a good feel for. Nick Fairley's only missed a practice and a half. Keep in mind, I mean, I know they say cramps, and let's hope that's the case. He practiced for half that practice on Sunday, and I got a lot of pics of him. It was yesterday that he missed, but I'm telling you this. I feel very good about Nick Fairley. I feel very good about Sheldon Rankins. I can't 100% say the same for John Jenkins. I didn't watch Jenkins, though, as much as I did the other guys. I know he did look really good in a couple drills I had, but the guy that really stands out because he's just seems to be the hungriest is Tyler Davison. He just seems like his guy is just like he's not going to let any offensive lineman stop him one-on-one, and that's what I've seen thus far. I really like what I've seen from that guy. But what I'm really encouraged about is Edebali and Tull and Obum Gwacham. I mean, these three guys are very intelligent. I've talked to each one of them one-on-one, and I've watched them. These guys are pushing each other. And I'm not saying we can't use a Freeney. I'm not going out there, but I like the fact that he's got this competition among the three, and they are really helping each other. It's funny. They'll, talk about things. Because that's the one position I said we're so close to them, we can hear what they're saying. That they'll talk to each other and say, hey, man, what do you think I did wrong here? And they're actually giving each other real advice as opposed to trying to sabotage so they can win the job. It's a healthy competition at that one spot, and I think we're going to be fine at it, to be honest with you.
That's great. That's really great to hear. That really is.
You wrote an article, I believe, either yesterday or today, on Byrd and Vaccaro. Is this going to be the year that Sean Payton plan of what?
I'm crossing my fingers right here, baby. I'm crossing my fingers. I mean, listen, I've actually had some conversation with both those guys, and I feel better about them than I ever have. I wrote the article saying, and Alan, I'm just going to fill you in, and whoever else is listening. Basically, I said, listen, this might seem crazy, but if you remember in 2014 when the Saints picked up Byrd, the NFL Network, you know how they do their list and, who's better at what. Well, they did a list of the top 15 to 20 safety combinations in the league, and only Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor from Seattle bested Kenny Vaccaro and Jairus Byrd. Now, they were doing that on the strength of Jairus Byrd's, 22 interceptions in 5 years in Buffalo, 3 All-Pro seasons, or Pro Bowl seasons, I should say, and then Kenny Vaccaro coming off that really stellar rookie year when the Saints are really good. Well, injuries and then inconsistent play from Vaccaro has dropped them to the second half, I would imagine, in most people's minds of the NFL and safety combos. But I am an optimist myself, and I'm just watching the guys play. Byrd is not 100%, but he's not nearly as banged up as he's been since I've seen him here, and this is the third training camp. So that's my hope. But that's why you got Vonn Bell, because at least now you have another guy you can stick in at both free and strong if you need it. But I'm cautiously optimistic that this really, truly can be a top 5 secondary group. I really do feel that way. I mean,
well, I think
safety group.
well, I think, Sean Payton's been looking for his next Darren Sharper since 2009. He got Byrd to be that guy, to be that Darren Sharper, and Byrd just hasn't panned out. And I think Vonn Bell now is the guy he's bringing in to be that guy who's going to force turnovers, because Payton wants a defense that steals possessions for his offense, gets the turnovers, and that's his most important statistic. And if you look, every year that we've been here, since Sean Payton, I should say, has been here, we've been on the negative side of the giveaway-takeaway ratio, except for 2009. And that, when we were on the plus side, look what happened that year. And that's what he keeps trying to recreate with this defense. So I agree with you. I think Vonn Bell is the guy that he's looking at as the safety of the future. This is Byrd's last chance. Let's see if we can get out of Byrd. We can ever get what we thought we were going to get in 2014, and go from there.
I think Scott made a valid point a while ago when he said the high expectations that Payton had for Byrd have not necessarily been let down on the field by his play so much as the fact that he hasn't been able to stay healthy.
And he's really playing at 70% last year. Listen, fans just want results, and I'm going to give Byrd credit because the one thing he said, his dad was a 4-time All-Pro, not just Pro Bowler, and he said, his dad's like, listen, man, you're going to be judged on what you do on the field. Nobody cares about your injuries. This is the year. And we all know this is his year, because if he doesn't produce this year, this is basically a contract year for him, because he's in the third year of that 6-year deal, and after this year, the guaranteed money's up. So if he doesn't perform at a very high level, he knows he's gone. He's even said it. He's like, I'm motivated, and it's not just. He says, I don't want to be injured. I feel like it's the Saints are so cautious with their injuries that he feels that he's kind of tied because he wants to tell the world what the problem is, but the Saints, obviously, like a lot of teams, especially Patriots, they don't want anything about their injuries out. And so that said, I agree. But I like his attitude this year. For the first time, I really see something in his eyes when he's talking to us as the media. And I don't know if that's going to translate in the field, but I'm hoping it does.
Well, as long as we're on the subject of unfulfilled expectations, C.J. Spiller, are we ever going to get anything out of him, healthy or not? I look at that as being a colossal and expensive mistake last year. Because you take away.
It's just 1 year, Alan. I mean, it's just 1 year. If he starts off slow, I imagine that he's going to be on the chopping block pretty soon. But that's another guy with some guaranteed money. Buffalo has not been kind to the Saints. Not at all. Not between those guys.
Not since Jabari Greer.
Yeah, not since my man Jabari Greer. True story. No, I'm optimistic about him too. I mean, I saw him do a couple plays where he took it to the house in practice, and I'm like, And the one thing he said he couldn't do last year at all was cut. And I did see a spin move and a cut that impressed me at training camp. And I'm like, once again, I got to see about 10 of those to be able to tell you honestly that he can keep doing it. But it's a good sign. We're giving you a lot of good signs. And last year at this time, I wasn't giving you a lot of good signs. I was giving you some optimism, but it was much more guarded than it is now. I feel good about Spiller. I actually feel better about Spiller than I do about Byrd, to be honest with you.
Wow. Okay.
Good deal. Well, you need that joker back, that Reggie Bush, Darren Sproles type of back in this offense, because I talked to Sean about this last week. This offense is predicated on a deep threat, someone who can stretch the seams, and someone who can come out the backfield and get those mismatches on linebackers. And last year we didn't have that. We had somebody who could stretch the field in Cooks, but at 35 years old, Benjamin Watson wasn't Jimmy Graham. He could not stretch the seam. Marcus Colston clearly had lost a step. So, and then you didn't have Spiller come in there as the underneath guy, get those mismatches in the linebackers. So the offense a lot of times had trouble struggling just to get on track, get that first down, get those drives going, start moving those chains. I think we're going to see more of that this year because it looks like, Spiller aside, it looks like Michael Thomas is the real deal, and it looks like Coby Fleener is going to be the next Jimmy Graham, that seam, that red zone threat, someone who is going to move those chains on third down.
And get the 25-yarder over the middle, like you hinted about. Yeah. They're getting that timing down. I'm telling you, that's the thing that concerned me the most because, John, I'm going to go to you now because how crazy was it that we were so spoiled with those plays that we looked so routine when Colston was down the middle 30 yards down the field or Jimmy Graham, that timing play right over the linebacker's fingertips before the safety came up, and he had it right in his hands. Well, I'm not saying it's going to be overnight for Fleener, but I'm a lot more encouraged from minicamp to where I am now from seeing the progression of those two together. And then when you're talking about adding Thomas, you get 2 big targets in the end zone, whereas you really had none because Colston was kind of at the end of his career. And now you have that connection with these smaller, faster guys. Like, obviously, Snead's not the burner, but Snead gets open better than almost anybody in the NFC South. I mean, that's how good he is. So
I call him the poor man's. I call Snead the poor man's Lance Moore because
he's tired of that. By the way, he's tired of that comparison. He's like, oh, well, I tell you what. That last year, didn't we? Said, don't compare me to him anymore. He's like, well, it is what it is.
He's got to pick up the dance moves. He doesn't have Lance Moore's dance moves yet.
But who does?
You're right.
I think it's worth mentioning is when we're talking about Watson a year ago, at the beginning of the season, I don't know if it was even until maybe the Dallas game that they started even attempting to use him in the quote-unquote Jimmy Graham type way. They just had him in there blocking, doing what he normally did when he came in relief of Graham, and it wasn't up until maybe the fourth minute. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but that was the first time that they ever really started using him, and you saw that once they started to use him in that way, he flourished. And Scott can probably answer this if I'm mistaken about it, but I'm getting the impression just from the things that I'm seeing coming from camp that Fleener is going in the Jimmy Graham role straight in right off the bat. Is that?
Oh, no doubt. Well, no, you're paying him $7.1 million. He's in that role. But Here's the thing, man. Remember last spring when before they got Fleener, before they re-signed Hooman, and then Josh Hill was they weren't sure what they were going to do with him either because remember they had to get a matching offer from the Bears. Well, all of a sudden the tight end position looks extremely strong because those two dudes are playing better than I've ever seen them play. I'm talking about Hooman and obviously Josh Hill. They look like they're possessed right now, but dude, I'm telling you right now, Coby Fleener flat out said this, and I'll back him up from what I've seen. Rashawn Allen and Manhertz, they're going to have a tough time. They're keeping 4, I think, at tight ends. I really feel that way.
I agree with you on that.
And they're going to have a tough time deciding on that last one because these guys are balling right now. Rashawn Allen's catching balls over the middle that remind me of Antonio Gates. I'm being honest with you. And I know he's got a long way to go to keep proving that, but this position looks very solid to me this year.
Manhertz is going to be very interesting to watch in preseason because, he's a basketball player and he's going to do that same route as Graham and Gates and Gonzalez. But unlike those other guys, he's never really played football. He's been strictly a post basketball player. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does with his hands, how he gets off the line of scrimmage, how he fights to get open. That's going to be a good thing to watch, and that'll probably be the deciding factor between he and Rashawn Allen. Who's going to be that fourth tight end?
He's a specimen, no doubt. They may even put one on practice squad. That would be a lot to carry, though, but still, that's a lot of guys, and they have a lot of potential. I like the fact. I think Fleener is a lock right now for about 80 catches this year. I mean, they're going to spread the ball out, so that might be much. But 75 catches, 900 yards to 1,000 minimum, and give him 8 touchdowns. I feel that strong about Fleener.
Well, awesome. with that in mind, speaking of that fourth spot, how does that fourth wide receiver position look? You got Brandon Coleman, who is the incumbent, but I don't know how strong he's got a hold of that position. How about those other guys?
I think Coach wants Shaquem Nicks to take that job. I really do. He's only 28 years old, and I know he's not the same guy he was when he got 2,250 yards and 155 catches and 18 touchdowns in 2-year stretch from 2010 to 11. But I'm telling you, I've seen enough that at least he's going to compete. Obviously, Coleman is the guy to beat out at the moment. I think they feel a little less that they have to have Coleman. Not that they have the size of Fleener and particularly of Thomas going to the red zone. But Coleman's taller than – well, he's definitely taller than Thomas. Maybe not Fleener. They're about the same. But the fact is that guy better start catching some more balls because we've gotten in the media whereas there's a ball that he may be in a little traffic, but he'll miss, and the first thing we say is Michael Thomas would have had that ball. So you can't keep hoping a wide receiver catches the ball. At some point, you have to know he was going to catch the ball. So I think he's on the line. Now, if you're looking for a couple dark horses, there's a bunch of them at wide receiver. But I've said this, and I know, Sean, I think you were high on him earlier, but our guy Jake Lampman, man, it continues to impress the hell out of everybody, at least that's watching on the sideline, because he is a beast. And he's fast as heck, and Sean Payton has said that. I have a bite that I'm probably going to throw out tomorrow about Sean Payton talking about the speed of this guy. And, a lot of people look at a white receiver and they don't think speed. They think possession. I'm being honest with you, Wes Welker, et cetera. But he gets around the cornerbacks, and he's got some crazy hands. He caught a one-hander that really was as good as Michael Thomas's, except for the fact that he didn't go extending with it as well. But it was that good. So if you're looking for a real dark horse, Jake Lampman might be a guy, but right now it's a battle between, I think, Coleman first and obviously Akeem Nicks. I know they're high on R.J. Harris as well. I haven't seen much at camp. He was blowing up at OTAs and minicamp, but I really haven't seen much from him thus far at training camp.
Well, they got a great nickname right now for the three big receivers with Cooks, Thomas, and Snead. They call them the BMW Club. It's Brandon, B, Michael, M, and Willie for the W, the BMW Club. I really like that.
First I've heard it, and I think I will have to steal it. Thank you very much. It's very nice. It's a good name.
Somebody's trying to sell some T-shirts, man.
You're right. They're gonna believe me. They'll make those T-shirts. You'll see it.
Well, if I use it in an article, you won't get mad, will you?
No, not at all. I read it off of Twitter, so I'm not taking credit for that creation.
All right.
If it runs like a BMW, I don't care what they call
it. One last position. We talked a little bit about the linebackers. How do the linebackers look? Everything I'm hearing is it's like night and day with them.
Well, that's the thing. Let me just start there. Last season, I went into the first preseason game like thinking, how are these guys like Kakaha and Anthony going to guard anybody? And I was right. They couldn't guard anybody. But dude, I'm going to tell you right now, if Donnell Ellerbe stays healthy, he's impressing me. He looks healthy, and his attitude is as good as I've seen. He's only been here 2 years, but it looks good. But the guys that I'm really impressed with, the two free agents that they picked up, man, Craig Robertson and Stupar are really blowing me away. These guys are difference makers. Certainly on special teams, they're beasts. They don't care who's in their way. They'll knock the crap out of you. But besides that, they're good linebackers. And they all three play all three positions, man, and they do it well. Craig Robertson gets back in coverage really as well as anybody I've seen. I'm trying to think for Saints linebackers in a while. Let's just say that. And then Stupar, man, he's so athletic, and I didn't give him credit for that because I didn't watch a lot of Falcons games because I don't like them. But I love this guy's attitude, and I love everything about him.
The hate is real.
Yeah, the hate is real.
I haven't seen a Saints linebacker who can cover probably since the Bum Phillips era. And even that is stretching it because the Dome Patrol, they were good, but they weren't cover linebackers. They went after the quarterback and they stuffed the run.
Mark Fields wasn't bad for a middle linebacker. But,
no, he really grew in Carolina, unfortunately. The Saints let him go too soon. He was really raw, had a lot of speed, but when he was ready to make that next step, he was in Carolina.
True story.
My understanding is that Laurinaitis is just taking over the linebacker room, linebackers out there in the field. He is just barking at them, getting them guys lined up, telling them, making the calls, telling them, what's coming, getting everybody ready. And that's something you did not see last year. Last year, they were lost puppy dogs. They looked all over the place.
It was chaos last year. It was, and I'm telling you what, Stephon Anthony is grateful that he has this guy. And I'm going to say this is the three things on defense I'm going to say right now, besides the people coming back from injuries. Dennis Allen's leadership is extraordinary. Extraordinary. I'm telling you right now, the respect level that this guy gets is incredible. But Laurinaitis and Roman Harper's voices on the field and on the sideline, and I haven't been in the locker room yet, but their voices in the media area are extraordinary, and they cannot be underestimated no matter what they do on the field, because these are the leaders that this franchise has been missing since Vilma and Jenkins and Harper himself, and they need these guys, man. And you can just watch the play. I talked to Von Bell yesterday. Von Bell says, man, I just want to soak up everything that Roman Harper has to say. And everybody says the exact same thing about Laurinaitis, getting back to your original question. This is a home run. I don't care what Pro Football Focus says he does as far as his tackling. I could care less.
Don't get me started on those guys.
I've got two eyeballs, both Alan and Sean. I see up close, and I'm watching this guy direct traffic, and they didn't have that last year. And quite frankly, I like Curtis Lofton, but he does it better than Curtis Lofton, no doubt. Nobody has done it this well since Jonathan Vilma with the Saints.
That's great. That's great.
People lost their minds a while back when we got Roman back. They wanted to throw their hands up. Why? Everything we need. Why are we bringing in a washed-up who's at the end of his career? And I said, whoa. Time out. What he may not have on the field, he's going to bring to the huddle. And this defense, for the past 2 seasons, has carried on its back the responsibility of 2 7-9 seasons for the most part. The biggest part of the blame for those 2 consecutive 7-9 seasons falls at the feet of the defense, because first and foremost, there was absolutely no leadership whatsoever from sideline out onto the field. Now, that's my personal opinion on that. Roman Harper, James Laurinaitis, they are absolutely necessary for this defense to even get to average and to break out of the historically bad mode that it's been the past 2 seasons, to get to even being average, much less exceptional.
Well, I certainly agree with that. I mean, the problems you had 2 major problems last year. Number one, Rob Ryan may be a genius conceptually, but he had no way of explaining it to his players what he wanted them to do. They couldn't align right. They couldn't get the right personnel out, anything like that. The second thing is, you've got a young team. You need to have those veterans who've been there, done that, seen it, and can tell these guys, this is what they're doing to you. This is how they're beating you, and show them to stop making the same mistakes over and over and over again. I was picked on by people because I was saying I was watching Anthony make the same mistakes in Week 15 that he was making in Week 1. That's not a criticism of Anthony's football intelligence or his abilities. What it is I'm saying that no one was there to tell Anthony, this is how they're fooling you. They're sucking you in with a misdirection play. They're getting you a play action. You're biting on the fakes. This is what you need to look for. These are the keys you need to read. And people think, okay, I've played football for 12 years. I should know how to do this by now. It's always something new, especially when you get to the NFL level. It happens so fast that, if you make a bad read, bam, you're lost. The play is over. You're beaten. So that's what I like about the Harper signing. That's what I like about the Laurinaitis signing, because you've got somebody now breaking the film down with them in the film room saying, listen, This is how they like to run this play. This is what you need to look for to see this play is coming. No matter how they disguise it, this is what's going to happen. This is how you can put yourself in a position to make the play. How do you feel about that, Scott?
No, I'm in 100% agreement. I'm going to say the one thing that Dennis Allen, that everybody is saying about him, and they're saying exactly what you said, because they like Rob, right? And I'm going to just use Vaccaro as an example. I'm not speaking out of turn here. Vaccaro is, listen, I like Rob Ryan, but I'm a football player. I'm an instinct guy. I don't sit here and want to have to try to remember which one of these exotic defenses I'm supposed to be in. And that takes a second away from what you got to do. And I've heard it from linebackers, and I've heard it from defensive linemen as well. It's just a simpler thing. And, man, these are football players. Not to say they're not smart guys. Most of them are. But the less you have to think about your next step, the better football player you're going to be. And I've heard it time and time again in this whole week. We've talked to 45 players, and I've heard it from about 10 of them.
Absolutely.
Last position, because I'm not going to talk about kickers. I don't care about kickers. But last position, cornerback. I mean, we are hearing a lot of good things. You were talking about the tight end position being competitive earlier. I find that the cornerback position is just unbelievably talented this year. Even the undrafted rookies look really, really good in camp, especially once they put the pads on. And on the 7-7 drills, you're seeing them take a lot of balls away, something you did not see the previous 2 years. What's your
the rookies, dudes you're talking about, Crowley and Pruitt, are ball hawk kind of guys. Now, it's going to be tough to make the team. A lot's going to depend on Keenan Lewis's health. Haven't seen a lot of full contact here yet. I mean, he's on the field doing some mirroring, but obviously the P.J. Williams thing is the biggest thing. And this is exactly why I kept trying to drill in people's heads that we didn't have to have a cornerback in the draft. I mean, unless you thought that Keenan Lewis was not going to come back at all, you had bigger fish to fry. And not that they fried them all. We know they didn't get a guard, but they did do pretty well and undrafted free agent with the guards. But I thought that they really did well in this draft. I do, because now when you look at the cornerback position, by not going after one, you really kind of helped yourself, because now you're letting P.J. Williams shine, and he is shining. This is a second-round talent that only dropped to the third because of that DUI. And then you include who I think is one of the top 5 to 10 corners in the game, Delvin Breaux. He is that good. Yesterday, Roman Harper, 2 days ago, said he is the best on the line of scrimmage cornerback I've ever seen in the NFL. He says he's one of the top 3 for sure. And now he's got to make sure he can stay in coverage. He's young. He's still going to get beat. But when you combine those guys with PJ, who could play a lot of nickel along with Von Bell, and then you talk about Keenan Lewis, if he comes back, and that's a big if, boy, I feel very good about this defense. I really do. I feel very good about it. I'm still not sold on the pass rusher yet opposite Jordan, but I like what I've seen from the 3 guys. So when you can put the whole package together, listen, no one was talking about the defense when Rob Ryan came over and they were 32nd in the league and they'd given up 7,000 yards, 440 per game, and all of a sudden they dropped to 305 per game. I'm not saying this defense can do that, but if you cut down about 50, 60 yards, you're going to win a couple more games just for that fact, period.
I've told people from the jump, for 2 seasons, we've almost broken even at 7-9 with a historically bad defense. You take that historically bad defense and just bring it up to average. How many more games that you were relatively within reach of winning, how many more games does that add to your win total?
Who knows? Maybe 3. I mean, maybe none, but maybe 3. I mean, either way, I mean, you got to take the chance, and they're going to be better. I'm just telling people, this over and under 6.5, I feel like paying your bet if it doesn't happen, because that over and under for 6.5 wins that Vegas has right now, if you got money, I would jump all over that over, because I can't imagine. It's just ridiculous.
Well, a thumbnail sketch real quick on David Onyemata. I cannot say his last name.
Onyemata. Yeah.
Thank you. What do you think of him and his ability to possibly contribute at all this year?
Right now, I would say not yet. He does. I watched him a lot, and the one thing he does have, he'll bull rush the heck out of you. but a good starting offensive lineman will know how to block him. He doesn't have the tricks of the trade, so to speak, right now.
Right.
But I talked at length yesterday to a scout from the Toronto Argonauts who was in town. Really good guy that knows him well, and he told me enough to keep me encouraged. He's like, listen, I think I'm glad I was actually okay with the pick with Onyemata because I like taking chances like this. But this guy, by year 3, really could be an impact player in the NFL. That's a big could be, but I'm leaning more towards that than him being a bust. I really am. When I say impact player, just give me about 2/3 of the snaps on the field to me, and if you can produce, you're an impact player, and that's what you're hoping for. I don't really expect much from him this year. He might, he's going to make the team. They're not going to take the chance of him being practice squad because, what happened with Open Guacham last year. He was practice squad, and we picked him up. Somebody will pick him up because he has the ability, but I don't see him playing a whole lot. He'll be inactive, I think, mostly.
Yeah, the reason why the Saints took him in the 4th round is because Green Bay was looking hard at him, and they had gotten information that Green Bay wanted to draft him, so they jumped on him in the 4th round. The last player would be Daniel Lasco. I know he put the ball on the ground a couple times in practice. I read he's about 2 more fumbles away from playing in the Arena Football League.
Yeah, you're right.
How is he doing other than putting the ball down on the ground? How is he doing as far as what are they doing with him? Are they trying him as a kick returner? Are they going to use him as a gunner? What are they thinking with him?
All of the above. All of the above. Lasco's got – if he fumbles in a preseason game, he might be gone. But let me say this. You can't teach the skills he has, Sean and Alan. This guy's got incredible – he could be. I'm just telling you. This is a Darren Sproles type player. He's got that kind of crazy energy. Now that's a stretch because Sproles has proven it, but Lasco is a 3rd-round pick if he's not hurt last year. Flat out a 3rd-round pick. I did a Cal game. I did games with Tim Ritter. He's a great football player. He's just got to learn to hang on the ball and get a little bit stronger, but I like everything about Daniel Lasco, and I think he will be a sneaky good, if not kickoff returner, they might try him at punt returner because he is a guy with those moves that it's hard to say anybody's like Darren Sproles because that guy's a pinball machine. But if there's a guy that could be considered a poor man's Darren Sproles, I'm going to give it to Daniel Lasco right now.
Okay. Scott, I would like to ask you one thing for our media guy that helps us out, John Pinto. He wanted to know about Garrett Grayson and the quarterback competition.
Well, personally, I want to give John Pinto a big thank you from me. He has been very, very, very helpful, and I'm very appreciative of him spreading the word about my sites and my shows and my stories. So I want to thank him. Thank you, John. I really appreciate you, JP.
Absolutely, John.
And I second that completely. He handles stuff for us, and John worked together for going on 3, and He's got the energy and Energizer Bunny.
No, I'm very thankful.
New Orleans Saints football.
All right, now Garrett Grayson. I was not high on Garrett Grayson last year. I'm high on Garrett Grayson right now. I'm buying high because this guy looks poised to me, and that's not unexpected from a rookie last year. He said it himself best. He's like, Scott, listen, this game has slowed down a lot for me, and it's evident on the field. I'm telling you, he checks off. He's not trying to force things in. He'll even look at his 4th receiver if the offensive line gives him time. I'm a lot more encouraged about Garrett Grayson right now than I was at any point last year at all. And I'm really happy that they have him on the team right now. And I like Luke too. Luke it'll be a sad day for me when Luke McCown gets cut because that guy is the greatest dude in an interview room that you'll ever want to be around. He's all business, but man, that that Texas twang he's got and all the knowledge in that dude's head. And I think Grayson is on his way to being that. So that's going to be an interesting situation if they decide to keep 3 guys or 2 because right now, the way Grayson's playing, I think they might just keep 2. I don't know, but I'd hate to see Luke go, though, personally. I know they need the roster spot, so we'll see.
Well, and that unfortunately that brings us right into the next subject matter, Drew Brees' contract. Mickey Loomis touched on this in the beginning of training camp. said that they hadn't talked in a few months. He and Breeze's agent. What is your gut feeling about the contract standoff? Do you think they'll get something done before training camp is over with? Do you think they're going to let risk Breeze being a free agent? Well, actually, they won't. I think they'll tag him first. But do you think they're going to let this go, let him play out his last year, and just see what he looks like come 2017?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think they'd like to have the deal done, but I think they really would like to see how this goes out. And like you said, they have that tag. They have that tag card, man. And, you know, this is a business at the bottom line. I don't think they'll let Breeze play under a tag. I think this is the year they're going to just say, okay, they know the salary cap's going to go up a little bit, so let's just play this thing out. Give him $30 million, which is a lot of jack. Breeze should be happy with that. But the fact is that Breeze is not going to play for under $25 million a year. Now, after seeing what all these other cats are getting. But the Saints, on the other hand, are going to hold that card in their pocket. And if he has a year like, say, 2014, which really wasn't a good year, but we know he had an oblique issue that year. But if he plays more like that than he did in the second half of last year, particularly in December, there were some games Breeze looked very ordinary. Let's be honest. I mean, the Washington game, the Philadelphia game, but Breeze also had some injuries. I mean, so he was limited with the shoulder and some foot stuff going on. But I feel very high about Breeze's production this year. Like, I'm telling you right now that Peyton Manning's single-season record might be in jeopardy. I'm just telling you because he finally has the best assortment of overall weapons in my mind as a group that he's ever had. And I mean that. Oh, that's nice. That's a sweet kid.
That's my basketball star there.
That's a statement.
She won a state championship this year, so I got to brag on her. First state championship in school history.
What school?
Ursuline Academy.
Oh, I know all about Ursuline. All right.
Yeah. She won a state championship.
Kendall McGoey, did she know her?
Yes, Kendall's one of her good friends.
Well, that's her dad. Her dad and I are best friends. We were in each other's weddings.
Really? Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Kendall McGoey, baby.
I know the McGoeys. Yeah, in fact, we're going Saturday night to a banquet at the Superdome. The Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation's honoring the team for winning the state championship. Best girls basketball team in the state.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
That's really great.
It was a fun ride. I tell you what, it was a fun ride. Well, you know, I've had people tell me that there's no way the Saints could use the the tag on Breeze with the cap situation they got. You know, we've got $22 million in dead money this year, and you've got $30 million Breeze counts towards the cap. Do the math. That's $52 million. The tag next year is what, $43 million, I think, for 1 year. So I do believe they do think that's their trump card, that they can try and let this stretch out until next year. It's a dangerous game because we've been already going through all the talent the Saints have at receiver. You know, if the offensive line can just hold up just a little bit, we could be looking at a 2011 type of offense. And if that's the case, Breeze is really going to be demanding some money. And it's hard because here's a 37-year-old guy. Most teams don't pay 37-year-old quarterback $100 million contracts. But if Breeze wants a $25 million a year deal, 4-year deal, that's what we're looking at. So it's not the end of the world, but it's a dangerous game you're playing with this.
It's a delicate situation. It's a delicate situation because he is the face of this franchise and has been for a decade. But you're right. At some point, it has to become a business. You really don't want to sign him more than 3 more years. I mean, he's not going to accept that. But 4 years, you better. He's going to want most of that up front, guaranteed. So when you cut him, you know, it's a fact of life. And it's a tough spot to be in. I hate to be Mickey on that one because everybody loves Drew so much.
Right. Exactly. Well,
I'm gonna let y'all finish up because you got 10 minutes. I want y'all to talk.
Absolutely. We're going to talk. We're going to kind of wrap it up a little bit too. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate you so much for participating tonight.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, guys. Thank y'all. It's
enjoyable. If you would, Scott, let everybody know how they can follow your work.
Yeah, real quick, I'll let you know. It's easy. SaintsInsider.com. I'm putting up literally 6 to 7 stories a day here at training camp. I put up 9 the first day. I'm working literally from 7:30 in the morning till about 2 in the morning, and I love it. I'm doing it so for training camp. Come on to my message boards, man. I'm having some fun with some guys. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're in New Orleans area, there's a TV show called In Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander. We have guys every week, like the Ricky Jacksons, the Archie Mannings, the Delvin Bros. Every week I've got these guys on. So come check that out. It's on WLAE at 6 o'clock on Tuesdays, and then
Absolutely.
we're on again at 10 o'clock on Thursdays. But thank you all so much, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Scott.
Okay, so the thing we got next week is practice against the Patriots. They've got a preseason game, their first preseason game coming up. They're going to do some work next week with the New England Patriots, so that should be exciting because we're going to finally see what our guys look like when they're playing against someone other than their own teammates who know what they're going to do.
Can you believe that we have passed the last Sunday until February without football?
Well, I watch football games on YouTube, so it's every Sunday's NFL Sunday for me.
I actually pulled up a Canadian football.
Hey,
I didn't make it very long, but
when ESPN when ESPN first came on, they had a whole lot of nothing. I used to watch Warren Moon play in the CFL, and watch the old USFL with Bobby Hebert and Jim Morris. So, so I've watched for a long time. But yeah, next week we can talk about how they looked against the Patriots. We can go into the preseason game. We can see how that looks. We can preview that one. I'm really excited. I think this year is going to be a special year. I'm not predicting a 2011 or 2009 type of season, but I think we're going to see a team that's closer to the 2013 team than what we saw these past 2 years.
I completely agree. Quality, and as Scott said, that the vibe in West Virginia right now is so much better than what we've seen over the past couple of seasons. You have to, I would suggest, or what I'm doing anyway, you have to, we're only 5 days in. Let's get to and let's see the same kind of energy, kind of attitudes on the field, and just something that could be a really incredible product to forward into that first game.
Well, you're right. Absolutely. All right. Well, we hope to catch you guys next week. We want to thank you all for watching. This was a great show. We're going to try and get some more guests lined up for you guys so y'all can hear from people who are actually at the practices and are covering the game, and you get kind of an insider look at what's going on with the Saints. So join us next Tuesday night, 8 o'clock Central Time. That'll be 9 o'clock for you guys out there on the East Coast. And thank you again for watching. I'm Alan Ulrich, and my teammate out here,
Sean
there you go, Sean. My teammate out there. Thank you all for watching.
We're getting that.